Alright everybody, it's FPSTheCommentator here. Yes, I changed my name. I was originally FPS Gaming, so yeah, here I am. So in this video, we are putting out some of our own Doom hot takes out there. Now some of them will be positive and some negative of course, but don't be too mad as this is our own subjective opinion. Feel free to discuss in the comments. And today I am joined once again by Fryfilms / Frenchy Fry, so make sure to check him out as well. Anyways, let's get right into the topic at hand. The TNT and Plutonia expansions were not all that bad. As you all know, the two expansions for Doom 2, TNT Evolution and the Plutonia Experiment, were not all that well received by Doom fans because it lacked anything all that new or exciting to bring to the Doom formula, and just felt like a map pack rather than anything else, with negatives also surrounding people calling the enemy placement and level design probably the most frustrating in any Doom game. However, in my opinion, I think that these two expansions were not all that bad. Sure, the lack of new content like new enemies and weapons surely isn't helping in new content for Doom. However, the level design and enemy placement in this map pack is truly what makes this thing an underrated masterpiece, in my opinion. It makes it easily the most challenging classic Doom release of all time, in my opinion. You could open a door and unexpectedly 3 or more revenants will be standing there waiting for you, or even worse, 3 or more archviles. It really brings out challenge that no other Doom release at the time could really offer. I'd argue not even the Doom 2 Master levels. Some maps include multiple cyber demons and spider masterminds even, and sometimes on some maps even an icon of sin. The level design was rather tricky with things like invisible walkways and invisible pathways through walls, and little jump scares as soon as you open the door with a key. Overall, I think these are really underrated expansions, and the game even says itself, especially at map 32, do not complain and say you haven't been warned to not play on ultra-violence, meaning that these were intentionally designed to be a dick to the player and make Doom veterans possible, and to give birth to legends.
Doom 3 is an excellent horror shooter, with a lot of effort put into it. People like to bash it for being scary or dark. I love the slow build up from just starting out with a pistol, into using a BFG, then 1000. In a way, it's like the classic games with the fast-paced action that they executed very well, but the enemy AI is a lot more complex due to it be the more first 3D game in the series, with the, a proper Z, XY axis, proper biaxial aiming, etc., proper lighting and scenery and geometry, and stuff like that. But either way, I feel like it's more of an improvement or a modern evolution of the classic games. And I'll be honest here, the classic Doom games demons aren't even that scary. At least Doom 3 is a little scary. I mean, other than that, I would recommend getting a PC port, or you can get console versions if you want to.
Sigil was not all that bad either. So this one is sort of a follow-up to my last hot take on the classic Doom expansions, this time on John Romero's Sigil, and an expansion that takes place after the events of Doom 1. Now, it basically consists of 8 or so maps constructed in an episodic format. Now, people give this some hate because of reasons mentioned in my most recent hot take of Final Doom and Plutonia. Basically, no new content, and not using enemies or weapons from Doom 2. Now to this I say, yeah, the variety ain't the best because of missed opportunities to use Doom 2 assets, but come on, it's still very challenging and fucks with the player a lot, with enemy placements and obstacles in the level design you have to overcome, and it generally makes sense story-wise why you wouldn't have Doom 2 assets. Reason being is because it's an episode that takes place after the 4 episodes of Doom 1, and and at this point in the story, all the Doom 2 assets seemingly wouldn't exist at this point, or at least are things Doom Guy didn't come across yet. Overall, I think this expansion, like TNT and Plutonia, is very underrated, and if you're willing to play through this for the challenge and are looking for more Doom, I'd say give it a playthrough.
Reason being is that the very dim colors really work in the universe of Doom. Doom Eternal isn't a bad looking game, it just looks too arcadey for my liking, whereas Doom 2016 feels more like a Doom game for the modern ages. The only thing I'll give Doom Eternal credit for is that the grunt enemies look much better in comparison and more like classic games, but every other monster looks like they came from hell in 2016. But Eternal, they look more like comic book aliens in my opinion. They just look too saturated, too colorful, rather than the very disgusting looking colors or whatever. And I just look like, it feels more like a modern day Quake aesthetic, and it just really works with the hell environments, and it really works well with the weapon models and the characters. I feel like Doom 2016 has better art direction in my personal opinion.
Doom Eternal's Icon of Sin fight could have been better. I'm pretty sure I'm not the only one that feels this way, but the Icon of Sin boss fight in Doom Eternal to me really could have been something more than just shooting parts of the Icon's armor and body off so then you can finish it off in a cutscene with your Crucible sword. I felt like we, as a player, should have done something more hectic. We should have done some more hectic actions when fighting it. For example, like in a lot of hack and slash games like God of War, I know these two are separate game genres, but hear me out. In God of War, you do more than just attack the Titans until they die. You are actually put into some quick time events during the fight, in which sometimes that you allow to fly down towards different body parts of the Titan and attack them with melee weapons, and in some cases you are quite literally able to push the Titan's hand or finger off of you when a Titan tries pinching you to death. It's so badass, and I believe Doom Eternal could have done something more exciting like this even if they don't use QuickTime events for that kind of combat. I really do think they could have made something like that work.
The reason why I feel like Doom 2 feels less like a sequel and feels more like an expansion pack is because it doesn't really add much in the grand scheme of things. All it really feels like, it feels like more like just a fucking map pack for the game. Like, it adds Super Shotgun, which is just one new weapon, and adds like 9 new enemies on top of that. I mean, from the core mechanics, it just feels basically the same. Like, the physics, everything feels exactly the same as the first game. I mean, I don't think it's a bad game, it just doesn't necessarily feel more like a sequel like how Sonic 1 and Sonic 2 or Quake 2 with Quake.
In Doom Eternal, I feel like we could have done some crazy things that the Doomslayer does in lore, in gameplay, if not, like, at least show it off in cutscenes. Yeah, this is probably a big hot take depending on how you look at it. In my opinion, to be honest, I really felt that we could have done some more crazy things as the Doomslayer in cutscenes, if not some crazy things, for example, to finish off certain bosses in the game, maybe. I really felt these crazy things could have been seen in the game and have a lot of potential for building the all-powerful Doomslayer as an actual demon-slaying god. For all these crazy things that he has done in the lore and discussions about it, like the Slayer beating the Titan champion to death with his bare hands, or the Demon Realm consuming an entire multiverse over time, or being able to run 50 plus miles per hour as a Doomslayer, to name a few examples. Of course, I'm not saying they should add this to gameplay, because I know the same argument as usual. I agree with it. I know all this stuff would make the game easy to beat. It would not even be a challenge. But come on. I want to see the Doomslayer, at least in cutscenes, do all the crazy things he's said to do in the lore, rather than just locking all those cool feats behind codex entries. It will make the player feel just that more badass to play, and would probably solve a lot of plot holes regarding his godlike abilities.
The boss is rather boring. It was just an over-glorified enemy spawner. The way to beat the boss is by firing a couple of rockets to its brain. It doesn't feel like a final epic battle like the Spider Mastermind or the Cyber Demon. I'm not asking for too much because the Doom engine is rather limited, just something a little more than just shooting a hole for a boss. Like a big, giant floating demon shooting plasma balls, and you can shoot its mouth from stopping the plasma, or then shoot its back or something. Like, there's a ton of cool ideas that people have done that's pretty good, amazing work when it comes to modding the Doom engine. Just, I don't know, the retail Doom 2 boss just feels so, like, bland. It just felt so anticlimactic in comparison to the other action you've been getting in the previous levels.
Doom 64 is good, but just feels like a tech demo that was made for the Nintendo 64. Now, this is probably one of the bigger hot takes. While I do feel Doom 64 was a good game, the game felt like it didn't really offer too much that was different from other classic Dooms, other than graphics, very few different boss fights, and the introduction of a new weapon called the Unmaker. And the game didn't even make use of some Doom 2 enemies. So in some ways it was even a downgrade in content. Certain enemies like Archviles and Revenants are completely gone, and the game over time really starts to feel boring because of the super dark environments and the slightly slower movement. And the Unmaker isn't even complete. It's not even a complete weapon until you get 3 demon keys and complete 3 secret levels. Basically, yeah, this just feels more like a tech demo rather than a complete sequel.
This expansion pack for Doom 3 isn't really talked about much in the Doom community, which is sad because the game is actually kind of fun. It in fact is much better than the base game in my personal opinion. The combat is much more fast-paced and energetic. They added a few more weapons to the lineup in the base game, like the Grabber, which is more or less similar to the gravity gun from Half-Life 2. Then they added the Super Shotgun, and my personal favorite item, the Artifact, which basically slows down time in the game, allowing you to attack enemies quicker and more efficiently. The new enemies really made the combat much more fun to play. The final boss is much more challenging to beat, but still enjoyable nonetheless. It's not annoying or frustrating, just not an easy boss for your first playthrough. I'd argue Doom 3 Resurrection of Evil is much better than Final Doom or even Doom 2. I'd highly recommend if you pick this game up on PC or on consoles if you can.
Alright, well that might have been pretty controversial, but that's our hot takes for the Doom franchise. What were your hot takes of the Doom franchise, if you have any? Let us know and discuss in the comments. Anyways, that will be it for this video. Make sure to check out Fryfilms. He made the thumbnail and is editing this video as well. And of course, if you're coming from Fry's channel, you can check out my channel, FPSTheCommentator. Anyways, that will be it, and see you in a future video.